Today we are talking about a dreaded subject, ensemble patches. Ooh. So stupid. Now, a lot of highbrow orchestrators or composers may tell you that ensemble patches are a no-no, big no-no. Everybody hates them. Don't use them. It means you don't know what you're doing. I totally disagree. I think that ensemble patches can be utilized in really healthy, productive, effective ways as long as you use them properly. So in today's video, I'm going to showcase how I use ensemble patches and in what instances I would choose to use an ensemble patch. We will go and compose a piece using only ensemble patches, and then I can give you a little preview of how I would actually go about and orchestrate that out to different players if I so chose. As always, if you enjoy the video, you can leave a like, subscribe for more, and if you want to support me, you can buy me coffee in the video description. So this is my orchestral template in Logic to date, and I have ensemble patches inside every single instrument section. We have one for the strings long, strings short, we have one for the brass, and we have one for the winds. So that's what we're going to focus on today, primarily. Now you'll see I have them divided up into all their separate articulations. This is not something I do for my individual instruments, or my template would be massive. But just for ease of access, so I know what I want, I do that for the ensemble patches. Now, really important, when you're working with an ensemble patch, you still want to be mindful of how many players you would have available to you. So for example, let's say we're in a string ensemble patch and we want to do a pizzicato section. Probably not a great idea for us to start off by doing like 8-part voicings. There's a couple reasons. First of all, it's not really idiomatic to the string section or any of these sections. As you have more voices for a section, it forces you to divide the players up more so that they can accommodate that. And the result is you're not going to get this lush sound when it comes to a real orchestra. You're going to get a really thin sound because you're going to have 2 players, maybe 3 players on any one voice. So it's not ideal, and it's not practical and not the best way to do it. When you're thinking about these sections, you want to think, for example, with the strings, we have cellos, violas, violin 2, violin 1, and then of course we have the basses. So maybe we'd be going for 4 or 5-part voicings, 6 if we want to split things. So something like this. Much more idiomatic to the string section. Just because we're using an ensemble patch doesn't mean we can or should just ignore all the rules of orchestration. It's good to keep that in mind, makes it easier if you're splitting stuff out. Same goes for brass, and same goes for winds, really. As we're working with a brass ensemble, you know, we're going to have horns, trumpets, trombones, and tuba, generally. So we want to work with limited voices. Now, with horns, with the brass, and with winds, you're going to be working with more than one player for each part. You know, you might have 2 horns, 4 horns, 8 horns. So there's a little bit more room to play in some cases, but it's, again, just something you want to be mindful of. So if we're working with a brass line, same kind of voicings. It's good to know how we'd actually split this up. That might be trumpets, maybe like this. Maybe we'd have the horns doing, and maybe we'd assign most of the trombones and tubas to those low lines. Lastly, just demonstrate that with winds. If we're working with winds shorts, maybe we'd be working up here. You know, with the winds, we have flutes, oboes, clarinets, and bassoons, and then kind of their subsections. We have contrabassoon, English horn, bass clarinet, piccolo. So we would be splitting those out in certain ways. Maybe we'd do flutes. Maybe we'd do oboes doing. Maybe we'd have the clarinets go. And then maybe either bassoons, potentially. So again, just to reiterate, know what you would actually do if you were splitting it out. Don't use the ensemble patch necessarily as a crutch. So with that in mind, let's actually write something, and then we'll kind of show how to utilize the ensemble patches. Start with a piano sketch. I kind of like the chords I was using, actually, so I might just run with that. Okay, something like that, something really basic. Now, how would we orchestrate this? There's obviously a ton of ways to do this. We don't want to use all the instruments at once, obviously. This feels like an intro to me, and maybe we'd even add a melody later. So let's just start by doing, I think just strings seems appropriate. pretty fast, actually. Let's just use spiccato, short strings. So I would just play in this line first. Okay, and then we can just kind of loop that because that'll be fine. Now, for the bass, maybe we'll do just the bass line. Okay, and we're going to loop that later as well. Okay, so we already have something going on with the strings here, and it's pretty full. We might want to add in something to fill that voicing in the middle. Now this is where you can also choose to get a little creative. So we do have the bass going on. Maybe we use the woodwinds to kind of fill out the voicing a little bit. Let's try that. I mean, that's kind of cool. Kind of depends on the color we're going for. I think I'd actually like to maybe try using the winds to something to kind of fill in the harmony of that da 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 da. Maybe something like that. I think that could be kind of cool. Now, the downside, obviously, with an ensemble patch is you're going to lose some of the realism that you were going for. This is not nearly complete for my standards, but I'd show you how I'd split this out. Now, maybe we use some very quiet trombones in the low register. Maybe? I think that's pretty cool. Maybe we can do ba-da-ba-da-ba-ba-ba. Something on the top just to kind of echo it. Now, as I'm working and doing all these different parts, I'm being very mindful of how many voices I've used. This right now is the woodwinds. Probably don't want to add too much more stuff in here. These are the strings. Could maybe add a little bit more if we wanted to, but not much. And if anything, maybe it would be in the higher register or somewhere in the middle here. Brass has a little bit more room if I wanted to add something. I kind of could see some sort of a brass legato line. Kind of cool. So I feel like that could use a little bit of support. So we're going to go back and look at the strings and see if we have any more room. This is that legato line. So we have this kind of interference of this part. So let's actually maybe keep the low bass, this. And let's assume that we're going to give the melody to the cello as well. Could even be cello and viola. Okay, so I just had an idea there. Let's actually now, let's move it up the octave. We'll see how that disrupts the ostinato. So always being mindful of where those voices overlap with each other. It's really easy to get lost in just adding stuff. But if you look now, actually it's not too bad. You see we have this kind of staying low. So this would be okay. But it is going to create a little bit of problem solving when we go to actually orchestrate this to on the ensemble patches. So like I wouldn't add much more than this in terms of stuff, because I think it's fine. If anything, maybe what I could do, we had the cello doing this melody, so maybe now we actually double up on the bass the second time through. Just a little bit more push, you know? So it comes in like this. All right, now we are ready to split this out into the individual sections if we wanted to. There are times when this might be good enough for somebody, a client, depending on the time frame, the budget. This might be where you'd stop and say, okay, good enough. But if you're working and you have a little bit more extra time, or you're working with a bigger budget, or you just want to do a better job, you'll split it out and you will see the difference in how this sounds. So let's now orchestrate this essentially. So if we're looking at the ensemble patches, let's maybe start with the strings because we had a lot of work in there. We have that ostinato, which I think we should probably get in one of the violins. Let's do it in violin 2 because it's going to have a little less weight. And you could copy paste if you wanted, actually. So let's do that. Let's just copy this over. You're immediately going to hear the difference in the sound. So here is what it sounds like as just one violin. Lot thinner. You might be like, oh, the ensemble one sounded better, but you have to understand that realistically, you're just not going to have that much power on any one line unless you're striping, recording something over and over and over again. So now let's take this part, give it to the cello like we had planned on, and you'll see that's why it's good to kind of pre-plan a little bit. Okay, and then we're going to give this line to violin 1. So you see it's not too bad to actually split this all out. Let's also give this maybe to viola. So like that, and then we're going to also give this, let's pull this down the octave. And the only other thing we have left to do with the strings is the bass, which we have right here. So we're going to copy that over. Make some quick adjustments. My bass transposes an octave down, so I'm going to have to pop it all up an octave. And then I'm going to give this second half to the cello. And let's just see how this sounds. Might need some tweaking, but we'll see. All right, not bad. I think needs a little bit more support. Let's maybe try giving this to violas as well. We could also try a different articulation if it seems strange. Okay, let's actually, first half, we'll give it there, and then let's give this to the violas in the second half, like what I had planned originally, because I liked that octave split. That was nice. And I think that'll work, so let's just move on. I trust that it's going to be fine. Let's move to the brass, because the brass wasn't too intense. We were kind of working with trombones, maybe tuba, and horns. So horn comes in the beginning. We got to decide how many horns. Maybe one horn should be fine, I think. I'm going to replay this in myself. I think that works. Let's grab the trombones. Trombones, we're doing essentially kind of these closed to open voicings, if I remember right. Da, 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 dum. So let's try that. Okay, I think that sounds nice. You can see the way I'm doing the breathing here again. I think second time, let's get a trumpet. Da, 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 da. Maybe up the octave. I'm just not sure. Let's see. Yes, but not quite so loud and not jumping up that high. Da, da, dum. So it hops down the octave. That's a very common orchestration thing. And then maybe tuba on the second half just to add a little more push on the bottom. All right, now all that's left is the winds, and then I'll show you kind of the A-B comparison. So let's check out what the winds we're doing, because I forget. Okay, so mid chords, and then da 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 da. Let's start with just that little cute echo. So flutes, and maybe oboes we could do. That'll work. Okay. And now for the inner lines. We have da da da, ba da da. Register is very important, so you want to think about register. Okay, so we're gonna do clarinets, I think. 2 clarinets, split. Okay. Okay. And then basically we'll just have the bassoon. And then second part, let's have it actually jump the octave, so 2 bassoons. You know, actually listening to that, it's in the way of the melody. So let's actually... and then do the bass. So it's actually basically going to double the cello. We could even potentially just grab the cello, and that should work, I think. Tuba's a little aggressive there, so let's just keep it nice and quiet. You know, there's other ways to orchestrate this, but this is based on what I did. So let's A-B. Here is the ensemble patch for reference with all the MIDI so you can see that. And also I'm going to include this MIDI on Patreon if you want to kind of study what I did specifically. You can check that out there. For anybody on the $10 level and up, there is basically an incentive where you get all my bonus content, which is MIDI like this, MP3s, a couple bonus videos, that sort of thing. So here is the ensemble patches. Okay, and here is the split patches. So you can see there is a difference. If you're a composer, you can definitely notice the difference. Even a client might just notice maybe a 10-20% difference. So therein is the answer to the question. When should you use ensemble patches? When it's not a big enough difference that your client would notice. Or really thinking about the 80-20 principle, when that extra amount of work is just simply not worth your time or the money you're being paid. That's when you use an ensemble patch, but even doing so, you can go in with this approach, and that then helps you to write more orchestrally. That ensemble patch sketch that I did, like, it's pretty good. It might be passable, or even some sections of it. And I could mix and match different things, like just use the string ensemble patches, which I often do. So hopefully you found this video helpful. If you did, you can leave a like, subscribe for more content, and if you want to support me, you can join me on Patreon, like I said, or you can just buy me a coffee in the video description if you like, because I like coffee. Thank you as always for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.